Ever since he lost to Ryomen Sukuna, Satoru Gojo has been called a fraud. We were led to believe that Gojo would take the mantle of history's strongest, not just of his generation. Then this happened. Gojo losing to Sukuna rattles the foundation of readers' hopes for the series and his character. Fraud is the only word that comes to mind when thinking of Gojo. We think back to the multiple times he says he would defeat Sukuna, and now we know he lied through his teeth. At least, that is how a lot of people view his character. But what if Gojo actually won the fight? It seems blasphemous to claim Gojo as the winner in a conflict that got him cut in half, but I think there is evidence supporting that claim, and I wonder if our power scaling mindset blinded us to Satoru Gojo's true intentions. I've always thought Yuji as Gege's diamond, a character that was continuously refined into one of the best protagonists around. Gojo is Gege's star, outshining most of the cast, until eventually his light needed to fade to allow the shine of others to poke through. Wire to wire, Satoru Gojo's story is one of isolation, at times on an internal level as his strength removes him from the Jujutsu society, and at other times a collective isolation as he forces the rest to live within a veil of his strength. The story of isolation will define how we interpret Gojo's encounter with Sukuna and his role in the latter half of Jujutsu Kaisen's story. For my money, Gojo is the lifeblood of Jujutsu Kaisen, and to understand how he actually won his fight against Sukuna, we need to walk through many of the nuances of his character. Welcome to AniEssays. Here we overanalyze anime and manga, with each video on the channel created under the belief that anime, same as film and literature, is worthy of in-depth criticism. If you enjoy my videos, then consider supporting me through Patreon or my YouTube membership. And I am also excited to announce that this month's buddy anime watch-along will be of Hellsing Ultimate for spooky season. To join the watch-along, check out my Patreon or YouTube membership, and more information about extra benefits at the end of this video. It is not hyperbole to say that Gojo is the most unique person alive. The first person born with 6 eyes in over 400 years. Satoru mixed that innate gift with the Gojo's clan's limitless technique to far exceed the skill of any living sorcerer. Late history hasn't been kind to those born with 6 eyes, as Kenjaku has made it a mission to deal with them in his attempts to complete the merger, going as far as to kill the last 6-eye user a month after their birth. Gojo's presence spawns a bounty from curses who wish to see him dead, all of which fail as Gojo's strength overwhelms them, even as a child. From his moment of birth, isolation became his reality. There would never be any person who could challenge his strength, and his destiny would be to become society's tyrant or protector. The irony of having eyes that allow you to see all is that even though you can see others, none of them can truly see you. That is, until Gojo met the love of his life. Gojo and Geto's character dynamic is one of the most fascinating in Jump. The two become close friends as students at Jujutsu High because of their extreme talent for sorcery. Even so, the two have fundamentally opposing outlooks on how society should be run. Geto believing it is the role of all sorcerers to look out for the weak, while Gojo rejects that notion, arguing that the strong do not have a responsibility to those weaker than them. Gojo's arrogance at this time stems from the expectation he can't lose. This outlook is a seed that would have Gojo grow into the same kind of sorcerer as Sukuna, but that growth is cut off by Toji Fushiguro. Gojo and Geto are tasked with the protection of the star plasma vessel, Riko, a mission that would lead to the two of them fundamentally changing as people. Toji is the black sheep of the Zenin clan as a person who has no access to cursed energy, instead gaining insane physical abilities. Toji takes up a bounty to remove Riko, and in doing so dealing with Gojo. Toji is a person unseen by Jujutsu society for his lack of cursed energy, the only person to ever notice his presence was Gojo himself at a young age. Gojo was the only person to see Toji, and likewise, Toji understands Gojo better than most, and uses that to kill him on his path to killing Riko directly in front of Geto. Failure brings change for Gojo and Geto. Gojo narrowly survives Toji's attack and returns the favor shortly after Riko is gone. Here Gojo reaches a state of enlightenment, and the humbling he receives by a being with no cursed energy causes him to align his views with what Geto had originally argued for. In the time after the conflict, Gojo threw himself into his training to perfect his skill and reach the highest level of sorcery, but he lost his friend along the way. After months of absorbing cursed spirits and reflecting on the cycle of pain Jujutsu sorcerers go through to protect humans, Geto makes the choice to rid the world of all humans. Here, the two walk a separate path, and one that will end with Gojo killing his friend, and eventually Geto's body falling into the hands of Kenjaku. The shift in Gojo's mindset from seeing the weak as a burden to protecting them while lifting up a new generation of sorcerers stems from this failure. When Gojo lost to Toji, he could no longer view himself as an untouchable force. Geto believes the cause of the world's cruelty stems from humans. Gojo's insight into the rejection of Toji Fujiguro, the monster made from Jujutsu society, allows him to see that removing humans from the world can never be the answer to the cruelty that exists. Gojo's eyes allow him to see those left behind by society, and so he invests in the places no others can find. That brings us to when we meet Gojo as a Jujutsu High teacher and the powerhouse for the world of sorcerers. Because of his raw power, Gojo has the status to push back on the Jujutsu elders and influence the way society works, even if they try to manipulate him just as much as he does to them. Gojo invests in the next generation, putting the likes of Yuta, Yuji, Megumi, and the other students as the key to a better future. This isn't to say that Gojo is now a humble guy who only gives back. He still is the strongest after all, and because of that, he makes mistakes like anyone else. But his moral compass of protecting humans and lifting up new sorcerer speaks to his character. There is also a reason why so many of his students are others who feel alone. Maki and Megumi have been disregarded by the Zenin clan. Yuji and Yuta have no family and were put up for execution. Gojo pushes back on the establishment by taking interest in the sorcerers who don't fit the traditionalist mold of what a sorcerer should be. Gojo seemingly is that model for the peak of what Jujutsu society could become, yet his strength exceeds the elders to such an absurd degree that they reject him. In a way, Gojo halts the foundation of what we perceive strength to be, and does so while keeping many of the negative ways of the past at bay. We know just how much the higher-ups hate Gojo's presence when he is sealed and they manipulate the situation to make him an enemy of their world when they all know that isn't the case. Gojo spends the first season of Jujutsu Kaisen's story laying the groundwork for a major goal of his, to create a world where his presence isn't necessary. His moral compass of saving humans results in him getting sealed by Kenjaku in Season 2, and leaves Gojo out of the narrative for a long time. But if Gojo is going to put his money where his mouth is, then the other sorcerers need to be able to save him. This fight has a strong argument for the best in the series, and it balances the different facets of Gojo's character perfectly. We have been dancing around a very specific dichotomy within Gojo throughout this video. On one hand, he is the arrogant, maniacal, overpowered person who gets pleasure from showing off his strength, and on the other, he acts as a protector who deeply cares for people and wishes for the world to be a better place after he is gone. In this fight, we see the maniacal Gojo come out. Gojo's moral turn to supporting others failed to remove him from the isolation of being the strongest. In this fight, he gets to live in his truest form against a person who can match his ability. The strongest searching out a worthy opponent is a plot thread not uncommon in shonen, and Gege's unique backdrop comes from the past and present dynamic. Sukuna is a force that has existed for centuries, and his strength and mindset reflect that of traditionalism. His power is his own, cultivated for himself and no one else. He has become a monstrosity in search of crushing all of the weak beings that would challenge him. Beyond raw strength, this clash is one of time and ideals, Gojo for the collective and Sukuna for the individual. Before the fight gets underway, Gojo has already declared that he would overcome Sukuna, and he doubles down, saying that Sukuna is the challenger for this fight. After a truly back-and-forth affair that sees each sorcerer getting the upper hand at multiple points, Sukuna wins and kills Gojo. The end of this fight left many readers, myself included, feeling a bit cheated. The story is at an odd crossroads where the story star has whittled away, and now we have to rely on Gege's less overpowering toys to take the story to its end. With that being said, I adore how Gege handled the death of Gojo. Gojo performed his final move, seemingly taking away Mahoraga and claiming victory for himself, only for his power to be thrown back at him. To start the chapter, we see Gojo in what seems to be the afterlife, talking to Geto and his friends before cutting back and revealing his death for certain. The choice to have Gojo's death come out of nowhere and off-screen hits the purpose of his character. Gojo's life is defined by the people he cares for, and he regrets not having Geto stand by him on his way out to face his ultimate challenger. Gojo comes to terms with the fact that maybe his strength wasn't enough to bring out the best in Sukuna, while also enjoying the moments he got to fully reach his potential. We all want to be given a chance to grow and find the depths of our personality and abilities. For Gojo, that is expressed through combat in moments where he can fight the strongest. Gojo mentions the line he drew a long time ago, that he would never put himself beyond that line, as it would erode his ability to connect with those around him. In this battle, Gojo captures a glimpse of Sukuna's loneliness, and he says he enjoys the battle. In modern life, there is a demand to find greatness, a search for the thing that separates you from the rest. There is a joy to be found in becoming great, but that also comes at a cost, and the choice to pay that cost is one up, and every individual must choose if that cost is worth it. Gojo chose to never go too far into isolation, and instead to protect and help those he loved. That is where the true strength of Satoru Gojo lies, as strength doesn't mean having the ability to kill the person in front of you, but the mental toughness and personal identity to pursue a path that will leave you with friends in the end. The moment Yuji hit the final blow with Black Flash, Gojo's win over Sukuna was crystallized. Gojo's confidence in winning is rooted in his belief in the next generation. Gojo doesn't grip onto his place in time like Sukuna, but is willing to lift up those who will come after him. The very students he cares so much for take what he started and finish it by beating the King of Curses. Sukuna would have never had others to fight for him in the same way because he continuously made choices that would only benefit him and his understanding of strength. The generations of the past try to keep their grip on the future, believing their outlook on life is final. Gojo's journey argues for the opposite. A clear example of this is in Yuta's role in the story. Yuta is arguably Gojo's #1 pupil, and is considered by most to be the second strongest sorcerer after Gojo himself. When Gojo was sealed, he put his faith in Yuta, and Kenjaku scoffed at the idea. Once Gojo was reborn, and after seeing his best friend fall to a darker ideology, Gojo decides that the world must be able to function with him not around. His belief in Yuta is paid off when Kenjaku is killed, and so is the time he spent holding up others when Yuji, with the help of so many of Gojo's students, defeats Sukuna and changes Sukuna's perspective on life. When we view stories as vessels for power scaling conversations, it can become easy to miss the subtext of the story. Don't get me wrong, there is nothing bad with talking power scaling. I love those conversations just as much as the next person, but that should not limit our understanding of character. Gojo and Sukuna's battle was one of the self. In Jujutsu Kaisen, losing fundamentally changes who you are. When Gojo loses, he returns south, as if to redefine who he has always been. This suggests that the outcome of this battle was not a loss for Gojo, but a byproduct of his belief in the next generation. When Sukuna loses, he chooses to go north, to be reborn. His perspective on the world will now never be the same. After his encounter with Gojo and Gojo's students, Sukuna loses and is fundamentally changed. Gojo so clearly beats Sukuna in the end because his ideology wins out. Gojo invests in others at the slight cost of his own strength, and it means that even though he was sealed, even though in a 1-versus-1 fight he couldn't kill Sukuna, the current generation is able to best what is considered to be the strongest of all time. And we know Sukuna could never cultivate other talents around him in the same way because he was so isolated in his point of view. For a long time, Satoru Gojo lived a life of isolation. When you're perceived as the strongest, that title becomes your identity and warps the choices you make. After losing to Toji, Gojo goes north and discovers a new side to himself, one as a protector and cultivator for a better future. For that future to exist, he will need to stand on his ideals. He knows Sukuna can never beat him because his students will remain after he is gone. When Gojo dies at the hands of Sukuna, he does not fall, same as when Toji Fujigira was beaten. For Gojo, moving on allows the next generation to prove that the world does not need the veil of a singular strongest being, and in fact, focusing too much on one individual holds the world back from progressing. Gojo versus Sukuna was never a fair fight, for Gojo had long since won before Sukuna ever came back to the world of the living. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. There are so many ways to interpret Gojo's character, and I only feel like I scratched the surface here. I want to give a big shout out to all of my patrons and YouTube members who are essential to keeping this channel going. If you enjoy my videos, then consider checking out my Patreon or YouTube membership. Through my first tier of support, you get access to this channel's Discord server, where I host my buddy anime watch-alongs. We'll be watching Hellsing Ultimate starting on October 5th. You'll also get your name at the end of every video and access to channel exclusive updates. Thank you again for watching the video, and I hope to see you in the next one.